and welcome back to Gapeys Grow Room. It's time to start potting our Annuum pepper starts. If you've seen my previous episodes, I showed how we started these from seed, how we potted them up into these large 6-cell containers, and now it's time to get them potted up into these 3.5-inch large containers. So these containers I got from the Greenhouse Mega Store, and these are much taller than your regular 3.5-inch containers, so they should be able to stay in these containers until we transplant them outside next month. And these containers have ridges all along the sides, so that helps from not getting root bound. So these are a great container for growing peppers or anything that grows really fast. First thing we need to do is mix our soil, and I like to use Pro Mix as my base. So I get this at Walmart for a pretty good deal, and it comes in these really big bags. I'm just gonna pour a little bit in here. All right, and then I like to add a few things to it because this mix does not contain any fertilizers. So I've got some fertilizer here, and I'm using IV Organics. So that is probably a little over a gallon of potting mix there. So I'm just gonna add about a tablespoon of fertilizer to the mix here. And then I also like to add some mycorrhizae, and this one is from Plant Success Organics, which you can get on Amazon. I'll put a link to that in the description of this video. And they sent me this and a few of their fertilizers to try out. So I'm just gonna sprinkle a tablespoon or so of that into the mix. And then one more thing I like to add is a little bit of extra perlite, and that just helps with drainage and keeps the soil nice and loose. So this is like a Dixie cup, and I've got it about 3/4 full, so I'm just gonna pour that in there. And then the last step is gonna be adding water. Now make sure that your water is nice and warm. You don't want to use cold water because that will shock the roots and your plants and they could die. So make sure it's warm water, probably around 80 degrees. I don't measure it, but if it feels kind of lukewarm, that should be good enough. So now I'm just going to pre-moisten the mix. Hopefully that's enough. I usually wear gloves when I do this, but you don't have to. So you just want to make sure everything is well combined. You don't want pockets of fertilizer in there. All right, that should be good. To test the moisture, I like to just take a handful and squeeze it. You should hear some squishy noise, and you should not see any dripping water come out of there. If you see it dripping water, then that is too wet. You can always add more water, but you can't take it away. So if you do find it's too wet, just add more potting mix until it's the right consistency. All right, so I think we are good. So we are gonna use these 3.5-inch deep pots, and I'm just gonna fill this up pretty close to the top loosely with potting mix. And then I'm gonna take 2 fingers and just poke a large hole in the middle of the pot. And that is where our pepper start is going to go. So we'll go ahead and pick one of these. Let's go with this tray. So we've got it looks like we have 2 Sandia peppers here. So I'm just going to take the tag out. And what you want to do is just squeeze the bottom of the container and then gently pull on the stem, and you should be able to get it to release. And there we go. So let's take a look at the root structure here. So you can see the roots are nice and white. They look really healthy. I'm not seeing a lot of coiling on this one, so that is a really good sign. If you see a lot of coiling or if the roots are really dense, what you want to do is just kind of use your finger to just break the roots up a little bit. But this one is actually looking really good, so we shouldn't need to do too much there. All right, so now we're just gonna place it in the middle of the container. And it's at this point that I usually like to remove the first leaves, or the cotyledon leaves, what they're called. So I just take my fingernail and just pinch those off. And then I'm just gonna press down. And it's okay to cover the stem, some of the stem, with some more soil. More roots will actually grow from any stem that you cover under the soil. So if your starts are really leggy, that's one thing that you can do to help with that. And that also works really well for tomatoes. All right, and then we're gonna add our label back so we know which one this is. So we had 2 sandias in this container. And this other one, for some reason, is not as tall. It's still pretty small. It might have gotten shaded from these other pepper leaves. So I'm gonna go ahead and transplant that one, but this one does not have a label, so I gotta make a label for that one. And I have this big roll of labels, and I think I got this from Greenhouse Megastore last year. This has lasted me a long time. I'm not sure how many labels were on here, but there were a lot. So all you do is break them apart like that, and we'll write Sandia, and we'll get that one potted up. So we have some pretty good roots on there, not too bad. So we shouldn't need to break those ones up either. It's a pretty small pepper. And for this one, since it's such a small pepper, I'm gonna go ahead and leave the cotyledon leaves on this one. All right, let's go ahead and do one more for you. See if we can find one that's got some more roots on it. So these guys look a little bit bigger. So we have some Aleppo and Padron peppers here. Let's take a look at the Padron. Looks like a big one. So here's the roots on this one. We have a little bit more roots, but still they're coiling a little bit here on the top, but the bottom looks really nice. Lots of roots, but they don't look too dense. So we can tease them apart a little bit. And if you break some, it's fine. So that should be good. And we'll take off these cotyledon leaves. These are some big ones. So we gotta get our container filled here. All right, and this was, where's our label? This was a Padron pepper. All right, I think I'm gonna take a break and do some more of these tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. You can also find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.